It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 222.
I think it's not an uncommon year or uncommon numbers for this time of the year. I've been pleasantly surprised. This is the first year in probably the last 5 years that I didn't hear a lot of people talking about.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I run a metric fastener importing business, and our industry is heading to a compliance of environmental traceability. And I'm thinking to myself, I used to only have to be worried about whether a bolt was 8.8 or 10.9. And now I've got to know its carbon footprint. I've got to know the bolt's family tree. I got to know whether its cousin once walked through a forest that might still be growing.
One day, the branch manager that I was working under came in and was making some calls on the phone calls to customers. And he said, "I'm going to break for lunch, man the fort." And he never came back.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the mighty FCH sourcing network. If you buy, sell, manufacture, import, distribute, or just generally find yourself involved with industrial threaded fasteners on a regular basis, well, this is the podcast for you. Hi, everyone. Eric Dudas with you again, coming to you from semi-rural Northeast Ohio. And the co-host of Fully Threaded Radio is with us as well. He's the man with the deep Southern accent and the occasional parrot sounds in the background. He's Brian Musker. Hey, Brian, you doing all right?
I am, and hopefully the parrot sounds will be a little bit more muted actually today. Though they're never totally gone, okay?
I think the listeners have gotten used to it by now.
Right.
I think Harpo actually gets some of his own fan mail, if you want to know the honest truth. Well, it was after that article that came out in Link magazine a couple issues back. I think he got a little more attention and notoriety than he had been. But anyway, on this episode 222 of Fully Threaded Radio, you never know. It's about to unfold, and we have a lot for you. We're publishing this time on December 18th, 2025. The final full episode of our 2025 season. I can hardly believe it, Bri. We're about to turn the page.
I know. It's sort of crazy, actually. The year has gone by in a hell of a hurry.
So much has gone down, and we'll take a look at it probably on the other side of the new year, because this episode is going to be an attempt at our usual jolliness, and we tried to ratchet it up even a notch higher than usual, because our feature segment today is the extremely jolly and usually jovial legendary sales rep from the Northeast, Rick Rudolph.
Yeah. Usually very jolly.
He often finds himself inadvertently playing the Kris Kringle role at this time of year. We couldn't think of a better guy to get on. We have a free-spirited, kind of wide-ranging conversation on this one. Great way to close off the season. We're opening up today with another guy who has his own sort of holiday sparkle about him. That's Craig Penland with Eurolink Fastener Supply Service. He's been spending a lot of time out in the woods this fall at one of his favorite pursuits, but he's been keeping a close eye on the fastener business as well, as always. We talk about a couple of industry topics on this conversation, but in particular, he gives us his take on what's going on with CBAM.
Oh, okay.
As someone who operates with a lot of European companies, he's watching that very closely. Mostly, I think U.S. companies are concerned about that sort of extra regulation coming to North America. You just don't know. Craig's got some thoughts on that.
Cool.
On the Fastener News Report, Mike McNulty's joined by Martin EVP Scott McDaniel. And the FDI last month took another unexpected turn, as you'll hear. Kind of a bump in the road, I'd say, although the forward-looking optimism is soaring.
I know. It sounds weird, doesn't it?
It does. Scott and Mike will mull all that over on the Fastener News Report.
Okay.
Warming up those guys, we've got Zech Williams, who's with Würth. He's also a young fastener professional. He's been a board member for a while. And I saw a post flyby on LinkedIn recently that caught my eye. He was involved with the book club that the YFP does. Thought it'd be a good chance for him to get a little exposure for that program. Very worthwhile for anyone in the fastener industry, young or old, who's interested in professional development.
Good. And it's very notable that anyone would be encouraging the whole art of reading, okay, in the current times where reading seems to have disappeared, and with it, the ability to write English correctly.
Tell me about it. Yeah, these guys are actually reading actual books.
Yeah, I know. It's cool.
Another guy who hits the books on a regular basis, most of them standards related. It's Carmen Vertullo, and he's got the Fastener Training Minute for us again, as always. Lots of you guys handle threaded rod. Well, this time Carmen's going to handle ASTM A193 B7 markings.
Okay.
So from his palatial lab out there in El Cajon, California, that's Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Squeezed into all that, Marco Rodriguez with Cresa joins us again with more commercial real estate wisdom. It's all coming at you, episode 222.
Marco Rodriguez, I'll just have you note that has spent about the last 3 years trying to encourage us to make video podcasts, but particularly video relating to the surprise and horror that people sometimes experience when they are introduced to FCH Vegemite.
Yes, he wants us to do that at the trade shows, set that up at our booth and have little video vignettes of that first taste of your wondrous breakfast accoutrement.
Okay. Right.
Sounds like a very fun idea. We just have to get our act together. Tell you who's got their acts together. That's the partners of Fully Threaded Radio who make it all possible. Let's shout them out. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded: Brighton Best International. Tested, tried, true, Brighton Best. Goebel Fasteners. Quality the first time. Go Goebel. And Star Stainless. Right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by BTM Manufacturing, Buckeye Fasteners, and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Endries International, Cresa, InSequel Software, Fastener Technology International, J. Lanfranco, MW Components, Solution Industries, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Würth Industry USA. Get with us anytime, folks. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. We always appreciate your info. And if you send it to Harpo, we'll pass it along for you.
Yeah, right.
We have been expanding the show notes on the fullythreaded.com website. So every episode, theoretically, is going to have more and more useful info for you. Look there for follow-up or links that we mention on the episode, and perhaps even an occasional picture of Harpo the Parrot.
Really?
He has his fans.
Right.
While we're mentioning the sponsors of Fully Threaded, we should also point out that these companies are so active across the fastener industry. If you look at the associations and the various groups that are promoting the industry in general, you can see them all lined up doing good work. And in particular, as the year comes to a close, let's give a shout out to Würth Industry. They've been supporting the Fastener Training Institute as sustaining partners since 2019, and that's continuing into 2026. I just saw a post fly by announcing that. So glad to see it, and the industry is indebted to that kind of effort.
Right. We've been long supporters of the whole idea of more training in the industry, and the Fastener Training Institute is fundamentally really leading part of this, but everything takes money, okay, to run, and Würth stepped in and very heavily supporting them. So it's a great act.
While we're here, let's shout out the dates of Fastener Training Week 2026. These were just published. And if your New Year's resolution is to get your CFS, that's the Certified Fastener Specialist designation offered by the Fastener Training Institute, Fastener Training Week is a great way to do it. It's 5 days in a row of solid fastener education. You can do it piecemeal over time, but if you do it as the training week, you get it over with. It's very intensive. Plus, you make a bunch of hopefully career-long contacts that'll be your friends, and you never know, maybe your future boss or partners as you go.
Probably.
But Fastener Training Week's something to think about. The first one in 26 is going to be February 9th through the 13th in Cleveland. It's actually Independence, Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. It'll take place at the IFI headquarters. Then May 4th through the 8th in Charlotte, North Carolina. That one's happening in connection with Fastener Fair. So if your team's heading out there, you might want to bring a couple of the extra folks, throw them into the Fastener Training Week. Think about it. Could work for you. Moving ahead in the calendar, August 31st through the 4th, this time in Chicago, is part of MWFA Fastener Week. That'll be the third Fastener Training Week of the year. And I'm not sure if there will be other announcements or not, but that's what's been published. So you can always check their website, fastenertraining.org, for up to the minute. You know, I asked Joe Morris, who does all this scheduling, if she was going to have something out here in Northeast Ohio or semi-rural Northeast Ohio, for that matter, closer to Brisket Fest, which is going to be in the middle of May, right after the NCFA Distributor Social. She said it's still a possibility, but they haven't put it officially on the calendar. So stay tuned for that.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of which, Bri, before we cut off to a quick break,
Yep.
Carmen was in town about a week and a half ago. He was traveling. I don't know. He was coming back from somewhere, had to make a stop off, I think, at Hodel to look at some equipment with those guys. Say hi to Jamie Clark and the Hodel group.
Yep.
So I picked him up and we started heading to the airport, but we had a little time to kill. So, of course, we went on sort of an inadvertent journey of discovery in the barbecue field because I wanted to take him over to Bronco, where Tony Martinez and I were so thrilled, but we forgot to get the banana pudding.
That doesn't sound much like a barbecue to me.
Well, it's a great dessert to top off your brisket and ribs, you know. Anyway, Carmen was into it, but when we got there, they were closed because it was a Monday. And for some reason, there's so many restaurants in the Ohio area that close on Mondays. So we were in the Ohio City area, which is just west of downtown Cleveland, for those of you who know the layout of the area. Anyway, we found ourselves at a place called Real Smoked on Lorraine, not too far from Bronco, actually. And it was pretty good. I'd have to give the nod to Bronco, but this was definitely a great second place, and the restaurant ambiance was perfect. Old-time rock and roll. Carmen loved it. We chowed. I got him to the airport in plenty of time.
Okay. What was that place we went to? You took me to downtown. Amazing brisket, actually.
Oh, yes. Well, that was Mabel's, and that's on East 4th, right near where the Indians play. And yeah, you're right. That place is world class. That's a Michael Simon joint. So it's kind of high end. You know, the place that we went to, Broncos and this Real Smoke place, and the joints that we tend to frequent, they're more smash mouth barbecue, you know, little hole in the wall type places, but they're all good.
Right. We've had at least two excellent barbecue meals in Cleveland, one of which I remember they served like half the head of a pig on a plate for us. Which is a bit off-putting, but it was very, very, very good taste. It's not quite what I would expect coming out of my British Christmas dinner, but still.
Yeah, I think that idea is definitely a little shocking to some people, but it was tasty. Anyway, we need to turn the corner here and get back to the subject of fasteners, which we do also talk about on this episode, folks.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
It is predominantly fastener related after all, and that's mostly why you tuned in. But hopefully everything we've talked about so far has set the table for a great episode and a great Christmas season.
And a great meal next time you're in Cleveland.
Exactly. But now let's do a little business. Craig Penland's on the other side. Thanks again for listening, everyone. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online Fastener Talk Radio brothers in thread. Fully Threaded Radio. Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. From the beginning, Star has offered two major things to our customers. First, we stock a large diversified inventory of sizes, with inventory on hand so you can receive it right off the shelf. Second, we offer personal, friendly, efficient service from placing your order all the way to delivery. Star quality is more than products. It's simple. We're Star.
In continued efforts to improve the industry standard, Goebel Fasteners has developed a patented new multi-grip lock bolt system made completely from T304 stainless steel. In applications where an extensive grip range is needed and a consistent flush pin break to the collar is favorable, the Goebel T304 stainless steel lock bolt system is the new and improved standard in the market. Essentially, the T304 stainless steel lock bolt system's extensive grip range and various sizes can replace up to 14 sizes of the classic 6-groove locking fastener system. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Brighton Best is proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with our trusted domestic partners, expanding our stainless offering with a full line of domestic ASTM F593 hex cap screws, 18 through 8, now in diameters from 1/4 inch to 7 8/7 inch, and lengths up to 7 inches. Tested, tried, and true, backed by American workmanship. These partnerships deliver quality you can trust, consistency you can count on, and domestic sourcing your customers will value. Brighton Best is investing in stainless and in the American manufacturers who help us keep our industry moving. Discover the strength of our domestic stainless lineup, including domestic stainless socket head cap screws 18 through 8 and domestic stainless A2 hex cap screws. Brighton Best, your one-stop shop for all things stainless, powered by American Partnership. We are Brighton Best International, Inc.
This is Jake Valdez Davis with BTM Manufacturing, and you are listening to Mi Amigos, Brian and Eric, on Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, doing this Fastener podcast thing that we do.
You're right. A thing.
And feeling ever so jolly. Well, Bri, I was doing some research to get some ideas about what we could throw into our 20-year anniversary year, which is 2026. Hard to believe. FastenersClearinghouse.com, the FCH sourcing network, will be 20 next year.
Right. And the company that actually gave rise to FCH is going to be 26.
Yes, that's a different story.
Yeah.
In the process of that investigation, I went over to globalfastenernews.com and looked at the Fastener History link, which I enjoy doing from time to time when I'm trying to mark the passage of an era, you know? So I went back to 2006 to scan the headlines, see if anything stuck out at me and that I could throw into the mix. And sure enough, GFN did not disappoint. Here's a headline for you. This is from September 19th, 2006. It says, Fastener Week returning as Fastener Tech 07. Two comments on this headline. First of all, Fastener Week has all its vowels.
Really?
That's right. And second of all, Fastener Tech 07, that was the first one that we attended. I think it was actually the first bigger show that we attended in the industry while we were just breaking in. But I had no idea that was the first Fastener Tech. It just seemed like it was such a huge thing at the time. I figured it was an annual event, never looked over my shoulder on it. Turns out that was the first one.
Oh, that's cool, actually. Yeah, those were in the early days when we had a little bit of trouble. We didn't have the trouble, but MWFA had a bit of problems trying to work out how would they classify Fasteners Clearinghouse in order to, let us join the Midwest Fastener Association. Fortunately, they did, okay?
Well, eventually they realized we just weren't going to go away, so they said, oh, gosh, we got to figure out a way,
Yeah. Who is ever going to buy fasteners off the web? How many times we heard that? I have no idea. I wish I had a penny for every time.
Yeah, especially now they're not going to make them anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, the funny thing is, Fastener Week gave rise to Fastener Tech, but then when Fastener Tech went away, what did we get?
I don't know. Fastener.
Right. Well, we got Fastener Week, but they just dropped the vowels.
Right. Yeah. Right. Fastener.
So I know the consortium putting it together has changed over the years, but Fastener Week is back. Now it's the week with no vowels.
And it's a great week, too.
It's a wonderful time. As we mentioned before the break, this year connected with a Fastener Training Week, but so much more. The mud race, the MWFA tabletop, their golf event every year.
And the Sleep in Heavenly Peace.
The whole thing, Fastener Week. And I like that GFN has that still outside the paywall because their site is zipped up tight. You got to pay for the content, which is probably worth it. But I scan the headlines over there all the time. And I noticed that Jason Sandifer has gotten a lot more active on LinkedIn recently. We're going to have to invite him onto the podcast next season. Haven't talked to him in a long time.
Okay, yep.
We've got Craig Penland with Eurolink coming up in just a moment. He's going to really get the ball rolling here. But before we check in with him, I was just out there visiting with you in Chicagoland, Bri, and I know we were setting up a lot of our plans for Q1 of 26. We have big things coming, of course. What have you been doing since then? I know you've been holed up in the FCH data center. You're working on the deep links. What is that all about? Tell us how you're building out that system.
Well, I'm working on a lot of things, actually, but deep links is one of them because it's been basically a sort of facility that we have had without actually marketing it or attempting to tell anyone about it for ages. But basically, it's an ability to, we have someone searching for an item and they get 100 results or something like that on FCH. The screen that comes up when you click on one of the items that you're interested in changes slightly. So instead of being able to fill out a little form that you put your email address and company name and whether you're a distributor or not into it, there's a different link that opens up that will take you straight into the shopping cart for that company. It's very, very, very easy to set up if you're an NSQL customer.
All right, so there's the money line. This is a way to get FCH users, when they're on the FCH sourcing network, to find your parts, and then we drop them right into your shopping cart system and they can make a purchase. So this is really ratcheting up the level of lead gen that we're doing. And as more and more fastener distributors have been coming online, looking for ways to make their e-commerce investment pay off, they want traffic. FCH is here helping that effort along. Good work, Bryce. So you're making that a lot simpler for folks to get loaded. Is that it?
Yes, and we've had sort of a rudimentary analytics that go with it, but I'm bumping up the analytics to make them a little more bulletproof. Okay, I mean the reality is 2 links to your shopping basket is better than 1. Okay, so you can use FCH as one, double your activity.
Again, we've supported links into shopping cart systems for some time. We're just going to build that system out and start to actively encourage all of our members to take advantage of it because this is the way things are going and fast.
Yeah.
All right. FastenersClearinghouse.com. That's our main gig, by the way, folks. If you're newer to the podcast, amazing how many times we find out people still don't make the connection, but there it is.
Right. After 10 years.
Well, 20 years of FCH. This was our 15th year of the podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I should have said after 15 years at least. So it's true.
It's a blur. Well, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service has been celebrating their 25th anniversary all year. It's been a whirlwind, lots of big things. Craig's been managing their new facility and it's gangbusters over there. So let's cut over to that segment now and get this show really going.
Right.
Craig Penland, Eurolink. Hey, welcome back to the podcast.
Good afternoon, my friend, and Merry Christmas. How are you?
Never better. Thank you, and same to you. Well, last time we talked to you in this format, at least, you were wrapping up the Stuttgart show for us, and man, you get around to all the events, don't you?
Man, that was a while ago. Has it been that long since I've been on the show?
Yeah, too long.
That was back in March. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, we did Fastener Fair in Nashville afterwards. And then we were at NFDA, ESPS in Charlotte, North Carolina, which that's only an hour up the road. So that's not a big deal. But then Kim and I took 3 weeks of personal, went over to Greece for a very long trip and then came back to follow that up with NFDA executive conference or executive retreat, down at Key West in Florida. And then I've been out to Denver doing sales calls with Joe for a week as well. So yeah, I'm tired of traveling this year. I'm glad that deer season has kicked in and that I can finally just sit in the woods right now and not have to travel.
Ooh, now are you doing a little bit of that, I hope?
I am. My team here, which is absolutely amazing, they realize how important it is for me to be able to take that time off and get away and, just think about things other than the business for just a little bit. So they do a good job of covering me here at the office and allowing me to take those mornings off and go hunting or leave early in the afternoon and go hunting. So yeah, I've done quite a bit since the season started here in South Carolina, and we've got a few weeks remaining in the season, so I'm still hoping for the big one, but I haven't got them yet this year.
Are you hunting in a tree or are you sitting in a ground blind mostly?
Mostly tree, but I do both, but mostly tree.
Okay, well, we could easily go off in that direction and spend the rest of the whole podcast, actually, but I think we better reel it in. Let me ask you this, though, before we do change back to predominantly fastener-related topics. Do you have a pair of ironclad hunting gloves?
Not hunting gloves, but I do have a pair of work gloves that have, let's just say, deer blood all over them. So I do use them, but I don't specifically have hunting gloves. No.
Okay, we're going to have to change that. Yeah, ironclads are good for a variety of things. I got some with chicken blood on them, but the camo hunting gloves with the trigger fingers exposed, man, you haven't hunted till you've worn them.
Oh, now see, I don't have those. I did wake up Saturday morning and hunt, and I used them with the deer that I got, and then afterwards I got them extremely muddy, planting 6 red maple trees right afterwards. So they got a little bit of everything on the ones that I've got.
Well, 'tis the season for all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
And you do a good job of keeping everyone apprised of what you're up to. You have your famous hunting, or what is it, musings from the tree stand videos out there. I see them on LinkedIn. I'm sure you do them on other platforms as well. But you were the recipient of the 2025, what is it formally? The Social Media Fastener Guy of the Year.
Yeah, Social Media Impact Award winner of the year, the first one. So I was excited about that. I mean, at first I thought they were kidding me, and then Bob reached out and said, "No, this is serious. This is something that we're doing." So yeah, I mean, I thought it was great that people recognize that you are trying to do something a little differently online with your company, and going in a boatload of different directions with it. And yeah, I was excited. I enjoyed winning that award. And I'm looking forward to, who's going to win it next year, the year after, because there's so many people that are out there doing similar things in our industry online. So yeah, I'm really excited about what that award's going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years.
That's the Fastener Industry Coalition's idea. They're running that now. And I agree with you. It'll be fun to see. There's a lot of people doing creative things, and that's the world we live in these days. So congratulations on being the number one. And
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you shot some posts out about your recent attendance at the NFDA, and you look nice and warm and comfortable down there. You called it a retreat, though, right? That's different from a conference. How's a retreat different from a conference? Is it just the swanky surroundings and the yacht and the caviar that you were all enjoying? I mean, enlighten us.
Well, a conference, I describe a conference or define a conference as I'm going to be indoors listening to somebody talk for multiple hours every day that I'm there. A retreat, you're going to listen to somebody talk for about 30 minutes, and then they want to meet you at the bar out on the beach about an hour later, and we're going to spend the rest of the afternoon at the bar on the beach. So to me, there's 2 big differences between the conferences and the retreat itself. But the retreat had a couple great speakers. I mean, Danielle Riggs with Würth. I mean, she did an absolutely amazing job, when she was talking about trade compliancy. And I thought that everything that she had to say was spot on. But yeah, I enjoyed myself down there. Only went for a couple of days, kind of flew in and flew back out because I had to get back here to the office. But I think it averaged like 85 degrees each of the 3 days that we were there. And sunny. So you couldn't beat the weather.
Okay, I'll take that definition of a retreat versus a conference, but does this mean that Kim accompanied you down there?
Kim accompanies me on every one of my business trips. So she's at everything that I'm at. It is extremely rare if you ever see me at an event out of town and she's not at it as well.
All right, that's a pretty good policy.
I literally think that I've only had one event probably in the last 8 to 10 years that I went to without her, and that was an NFDA board meeting in Nashville. We flew in to have dinner, the board meeting for a couple hours the very next morning, and flew back home. It was less than a 24-hour trip.
All right. Well, that doesn't really even count.
No. and she just didn't want to get on the plane for that. So she goes, you guys, you just need to go without me. So, but otherwise, yes, we do travel together, which is, a blessing in itself to, first be in a position to travel like that, but then to get to do it with your very best friend and to get to see cities and, experience different cultures and things like that with the person that you love the most.
That's beautiful. Let's rewind to the presentation that Danielle Riggs gave at the NFDA, because you were telling me about this before we turned the mics on. She was talking about various compliance issues, including the CBAM issue, which you explained to me isn't as big of a deal if you're just bringing stuff in from the Eurozone, but going the other way, it's a big question, and it's causing all kinds of upheaval and extra questions and bureaucratic overhead in general for you guys. I mean, what's the lay of the land with that question? Because it keeps coming up. I think a lot of people are still confused by it.
Well, CBAM requires European importers to now produce accurate emissions data tied to specific HTS classifications. Or as one of my European suppliers put it less than a year ago, it's basically just another EU tax on the EU businesses, knowing full well that most EU companies don't have the ability or the manpower to handle this type of request and will just end up paying the fines. But nevertheless, it's on importers over in Europe. So when it was defined a couple years ago, we kind of here at Eurolink, we kind of overlooked it, so to speak, because it has nothing to do with importing fasteners into the United States. And honestly, it's one of those regulations that now everybody's heard about, but almost nobody in the fastener world is fully ready for it yet. As a matter of fact, out of our 30 plus European suppliers that we have, I'd probably estimate that fewer than 5 are actively implementing CBAM reporting at this moment. And even fewer are actually advertising that they can provide the required emissions data. So that should kind of give you an idea of what they're doing over there. But the only reason it's become, I guess, more important here is, we don't sell direct to end users. We sell to distributors, but our distributors' customers, I guess like a John Deere, like a BMW, Mercedes, or whomever, they're selling product back into Europe after they manufacture here, and they've got to provide that information back to Europe. So it's starting to become even more of a headache here in the United States. And I agree with you. I think at some point down the road that our government's going to get involved, and this is going to be something that we're going to have to be responsible for too. And I hate that. I hate it. But unfortunately, that's the direction it looks at this moment.
Well, and that's a little detail that we also discussed for a while before we turned the recorder on, but that's kind of my underlying motivation for bringing it up, because I think people are looking down the road and they're saying, please let this cup pass. We've got a whole boatload of uncontrollable bureaucratic overhead with the tariff situation. Now with something as onerous as this CBAM coming down the road potentially, people are like, how much more can we take?
Well, you not only have CBAM, but one thing Danielle brought up that I wasn't even aware of was the EUDR. And I was like, what in the world is this? I haven't even heard of this. And I'll be honest with you. It literally was not on my radar until Danielle mentioned it.
This is with the trees and all that, the deforestation?
Yeah. So, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I run a metric fastener importing business, and our industry is heading to a compliance of environmental traceability. And I'm thinking to myself, I used to only have to be worried about whether a bolt was 8.8 or 10.9. And now I've got to know its carbon footprint. I've got to know the bolt's family tree. I got to know whether its cousin once walked through a forest that might still be growing. Danielle mentioned that it's almost like you're going to have to go out and take a picture of the tree that your pallets and boxes and stuff came from, to be able to, say whether we're not cutting down extra trees for this thing. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my entire life, but it's coming.
So did she give any ideas about how we can try to fend this off, or do we just have to sit here and take it? I mean, what was the takeaway on that?
She did not. I'm not going to put words in her mouth. I don't remember anything specific as far as us, fighting that off. The EUDR is, again, something out of the European Union. So it's not on the U.S. market side of things at this moment. So maybe, just maybe, CBAM and this EUDR will be ineffective for the EU, and that here in the U.S. that we will learn from that and not even bring it across the water. That's the only thing I can hope for.
Learning from our mistakes. Well, let's hold out hope. Hey, let's turn the subject to something a little more fun, and that's what's going on over at Eurolink. You guys had your big 25th anniversary year. I think it went pretty well from everything I could tell, and congratulations on that again. I'll keep saying it while we're still in the year. What else is going on with you guys as you wind down 2025?
Well, this has just been an absolutely amazing year for us. Right this very moment, we're doing a Christmas gingerbread house contest on LinkedIn. We're allowing people to vote for who made the best gingerbread house, and it's just fun to watch this. I mean, my team has just made this an absolutely fun year to be part of our company. And I just go back to, I think it's amazing what a small company can do when nobody tells them that they're too small to actually do it. And that's kind of what we do all year. We're probably too small to do the things that we do, but we keep doing it. And I think that the best way to describe our company, Eurolink, in 2025 is that our Fastener weekly air freight program that brings in these hard to find metric fasteners week in and week out. It has worked so hard for us this year. The best way I can describe that is that it probably needs a vacation day or even a spa day on its own. And if American Airlines doesn't send us a Christmas card for how much we've brought in through them this year, then there's something wrong. Because I think we're at approximately 250,000 pounds of air freight this year, if not a little bit more. So it has been an absolutely booming year for us.
Wow. Yeah. That ought to be worth a couple bags of pretzels at least, Craig.
You would think I'd get a couple of mini bottles, some pretzels, and those cookies that don't taste really good, and a Christmas card. Yeah.
Wow. Well, keep it up, and it's all good to hear. Well, we opened up this brief segment talking about where you've been and where we last saw each other. I'm looking down the road now. Of course, we have a few events ahead of this, but when the Vegas show, now this time in Phoenix, should we keep calling it that?
I keep calling it that. I don't know if I've said Phoenix show yet. So,
all right. Well, when we go to the Vegas show in Phoenix this year, I'm glad to say that we have secured the booth directly next to Eurolink. So we'll be neighbors once again. We've done that in the past. It's always worked out really well.
We have done that numerous times in the past, and it has been fun. Pac West has their show in March, their tabletop show in March, and we will make sure one of our representatives are there for that show. And then Southeast is actually coming to our hometown here in Greenville, South Carolina. So we will definitely be part of that. And then I think in May, or at least early May, we get into Fastener Fair, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina next year, which is just like an hour and 15 minutes up the street from us. So that's going to be cool, because this past year was the first time that we've had more than just, say, 2 or 3 of us at one of the larger shows. When it's in Charlotte, we're going to send the entire group up there. So we're excited about that. And then, of course, the Phoenix show. We will attend that and display at that. We'll send some representatives up there. You can have Midwest again, another top tabletop show, and Fastener Week. So, 2026 is going to be busy.
Outstanding. I look forward to seeing you at all those places. And I'll, for the formality of it all, I'll just say that the Vegas show in Phoenix is actually the International Fastener Expo. So that ought to keep everybody happy.
Yeah. And I think that at least those of us that go to these shows and display or even just walk the shows, I think that we're sitting back kind of wondering, what is Charlotte and Phoenix going to give us? Are we going to see the same attendance at those 2 cities that we've seen at Nashville and Las Vegas? So, it's not just that IFE's new this year in a new city. Fastener Fair's in a new city too.
That's a really great point, and it will be interesting. Yeah, interesting point.
Yeah.
Well, one way or another, we're going to see you out there. Craig Penland and Eurolink Fastener Supply Service. Hard to find metric fasteners delivered. Everybody knows that. Great to hear from you.
You too, Eric. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate your support of our company. You guys do a wonderful job there at FCH and FTR. And tell Brian I said hello. And I just wish all you guys a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And honestly, just can't wait to see what 2026 is going to bring for all of us.
Hear, hear. Talk to you soon.
You too, sir. Thank you.
We all know this is about winning the war on notebooks. We can't do that without the ability to offer hard-to-find metric fasteners, manufactured to ISO and DIN standards. Delivered fast, faster, or as fast as your star-spangled man with a plan. Every quote you request, Eurolink fulfills. Help keep America's workers armed and ready with any metric fastener in the multiverse. With Eurolink, you get what you want when you want it. Eurolink, hard-to-find metric fasteners, delivered.
Hey there, Fully Threaded Radio fans. We have been hearing a lot of tariff talks over the last couple of months. Put those concerns to rest with BTM Manufacturing, a domestic manufacturer of anchor bolts, single and double end studs, round and square band U-bolts, and much, much more. BTM Manufacturing, a commitment to service.
Hi, this is Marco Rodriguez from Cresa with your industrial real estate update. When you lease a building, whether it's a warehouse for inventory or offices for your team, you will typically encounter one of 2 lease structures, the gross lease or the triple net lease. The gross lease is an all-inclusive model. You pay a single fixed amount to the landlord, and the landlord is responsible for all major operating expenses, including property taxes, building insurance, and most maintenance. The triple net lease, also abbreviated NNN, is becoming increasingly popular, especially as large institutional landlords like Prologis and Link Logistics acquire more industrial buildings. In a triple net lease, the tenant pays the base rent plus their proportionate share of operating expenses, sometimes called the 3 nets. These are net property taxes, net of building insurance, and net of common area maintenance, also known as CAM. Essentially, the tenant becomes responsible for most of the building's operating and maintenance expenses. The pros of this arrangement is the base rent is typically lower than a gross lease, and the tenant has more control and transparency over costs, which can allow them to realize savings through utility and maintenance efficiencies. The drawback, of course, is that the monthly rent payment is variable and less predictable. As taxes increase and insurance premiums rise, or a major maintenance expense occurs, the tenant has to foot the bill. This model is standard for large single-tenant warehouses often occupied by e-commerce and logistics companies. Since a triple net lease makes the tenant responsible for a significant variable portion of the property's costs, auditing your landlord's invoices and annual reconciliation statements is critical. We have seen numerous cases where errors creep into the billing, and these mistakes can cost a tenant a substantial amount of money over a multi-year lease. 4 common errors we see are misclassifying capital expenses. A frequent mistake is when a landlord charges an item as a maintenance routine expense when it should have been classified as a capital improvement. For example, a new roof or an HVAC unit. A capital improvement should be the landlord's responsibility and amortized over the useful life of the item, not directly passed on to the tenant in a single year. Another mistake we see are incorrect prorated share calculations. In a multi-tenant building, you're required to pay a prorated share of the overall operating expenses. Errors in calculating the building's total square footage or your specific leased area can cause you to overpay your share. Another error can be caused when a property changes in ownership or there's turnover in accounting. When a building sells, the new owner's accounting team may not accurately abstract the specifics of your existing lease, leading to improper charges. Similarly, turnover in property management can result in inconsistent or incorrect billing practices. And finally, maintenance responsibility errors. Your lease clearly defines who is responsible for what. For example, landlord for structural repairs or tenant for non-structural repairs. Landlords sometimes mistakenly bill tenants for items that are explicitly their responsibility under the lease, such as foundation or structural roof repairs. Luckily, most leases contain an audit right, which typically give a tenant 60 to 90 days of time after receiving their annual reconciliation to contest charges. You should use it. A professional lease audit ensures that what you pay is strictly in accordance with the lease language. Given that a single error can repeat itself for 5 or 10 years, the return on investment for an audit is often substantial. One of our clients' building was sold 2 years ago, and the landlord was mistakenly overbilling them about $1,500 per month. Luckily, they found this, and they were able to recover the money from their landlord, resulting in a $30,000 improvement to their bottom line. The point is, don't let these errors eat into your profits. Control your costs by understanding your triple net responsibilities and diligently auditing your landlord statements. If you want to talk nuts and bolts or roofs and walls, I'm Marco Rodriguez with Cresa. You can find me on LinkedIn or email me at mrodriguez@cresa.com. Cresa is Cresa. I look forward to hearing from you.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays to the fastener industry from all of us at Volt Industrial Plastics. This is Heidi Voltrauer, and it's time for the Fastener News on Fully Threaded Radio.
Well, if you click into Fully Threaded Radio for the news segment, which it seems like a lot of listeners do, you're going to really enjoy what's coming next, because that is the news with Mike McNulty. This time he's got Scott McDaniel with Martin to kick around the FDI. Woo! Big news on this one this time, folks. But if you're the kind of person who's interested in personal development, especially if you're on the younger side or newer to the industry, and you're familiar with the Young Fastener Professionals, YFP, Zech Williams is with Würth Industry USA, and he's also with the YFP. He's here now. Hey, Zech.
Hey, how's it going? Excited to be here.
It's going great. And you're coming to us from your giant facility in Indiana, aren't you?
I am.
What are you doing with Würth? How long have you been there?
I've been with the Würth Group for about 4.5 years, and I'm currently a commodity manager, so focused on the strategic sourcing side of the business for us.
All right, near and dear to all our hearts here at Fully Threaded and FCH. How did you get involved with the YFP?
Really, it started out with my mentor, Ed Smith, pushing me to get involved. And then Jake Glaser, who's also on the YFP board, reached out and let me know that they were looking for a new board member about 4 years ago. And I've been on the board ever since.
Okay, a natural progression there. And you slipped that in very quickly, but you did say Ed Smith. So he's the current president of the NFDA. The YFP, of course, these days is under the umbrella of the NFDA and makes a lot of sense. So good move, I'd say there, Zech, on your career path. And you're doing a lot of things. We wanted to talk about the book club, but you also pointed out to me that, among other things, the YFP is involved in this mentorship program, that's right in the middle of our agenda these days. What's going on with that mentorship program?
The mentorship program is going well. We're in our third iteration of it this year, and we were lucky enough to match 12 mentor and mentee matches this year. So really excited for those individuals to take part in that program and really gather everything that it has to offer. The mentorship program is one of my favorite things that the YFP does, and I think it's vital, to the industry to make sure that we're developing the young talent coming in, to ensure that the fastener industry continues to retain some of the top talent in the country.
Okay, no arguments there. And the YFP is stepping up on that. In all the times we've discussed this, I've never actually heard numbers. So you have 12 this season, and this is the third year. You said it's the third iteration. What does that exactly mean? You just fine-tuning it?
No, so this is the third year that we've had it. So 2 years ago was our kind of inaugural year that we had. And basically the way it works is November 1st every year is our deadline. So the mentor and mentee matches this year will go through the 2026 year. And then for 2027, we will accept applications starting in the summer. And again, the deadline will be November 1st of 2026 for the 2027 mentor-mentee class.
And who's eligible to take part in this, both on the mentee and mentor side?
Anybody really. We try to drive it to young professionals and people that are new to the industry that want to, help gain knowledge in the industry, kind of develop some of their professional skills as well. And it's a great opportunity for some of the industry veterans to give back and help develop some of the younger talent within the industry, sharing tribal knowledge and, helping shape that and develop that next generation of fastener professionals. But it can even be more than that. I know I got married a couple of years ago, so my mentee for me, became a sounding board for, marriage advice and different things like that. So it can also be somebody that you really develop a close personal connection with too.
I can completely see that. It's that type of a thing. So it's someone that you are connected with for a certain period, but it's prone to go really career long. Did I hear you say that you have a mentee now too? So you went into it and you had a mentor, but now you are a mentor?
I am not a mentor. That's something I hope to get involved in, later on in my career. But I want to make sure I get some more industry knowledge. I've only been in the industry for 4.5 years. But I definitely think that being a mentor is a great way to give back to the industry.
We're only going to touch on a little bit of this here, give folks the idea that this mentorship program run by the YFP and the NFDA is out there. You can get more information at nfda-fastener.org. There's a tab on that website that deals with the young fastener professionals and the mentorship program, along with the book club here that we're going to get to now is mentioned. So more details on that. Let's turn the page. Good job on the mentorship stuff, Zech. But you caught my eye. I think it was during a LinkedIn post with this book club, because I'll be totally honest with you. It seems a little bit of a throwback these days with everything digital, and it warmed my heart that you're actually doing a book club. Tell me about it.
Yeah, the book club has been great. This really kind of started at the idea of Mike White with BBI. So I want to make sure I give him a big shout out here for the amazing job he's done helping lead this initiative for us. But I think you're right. It does go back to kind of the old days, right? Where it's not just about, news articles online and you're actually opening up a book, something tangible you can hold in your hands and, read and, help, drive your career. What we do is we like to do 2 books a year. So every 6 months we'll start a new book, and we do 1 book on professional development and 1 book on personal development. And, we typically will choose books by, something that's more of an easier read, books that have applicability to a YFP member, that they can apply the context of those books to their lives today. And lastly, it's also about recollection. If you can distill a book down to its bullet points, are they memorable? Are they easy to remember? And are they enjoyable?
And who picks the books? Is it Michael?
Yeah, Michael does pick the books for us. And really, he'll recommend the book, and then as a board, we'll kind of, give it the yay or nay. But I can't remember a time where we've turned down a book. Mike always has the best suggestions. The last book we read was The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lecchiani. And, it's really all about the three critical attributes in a person, right? Are you humble, hungry, and smart? To be a true team player, you really have to have all three of those.
I saw that. And so you had your review of that back in October, at least on the website. That's what it says. So how did that discussion go? Was it a spirited discussion, or what was it like?
It was a great discussion. I think we had 11 or 12 people join in, and it's a virtual event for us. But everybody had a chance to share kind of what they took from the book. And Mike did a great job kind of leading the conversation and, bringing up, topics that were, really drove the points home of the book that everybody read. And it was really interesting to kind of see all the different things that people took from the book and were able to apply to their lives and their careers.
Is YFP membership required to join in on these conversations?
Absolutely not. But, we always encourage people to become part of our mailing list. So if you're not, you can go to the NFDA webpage and hover over the Young Fastener Professionals at the top of the ribbon there, and you can join our mailing list from there.
What could be easier? Okay. So let me just mention that Mike White is part of BBI. They do so much for the industry. No surprise there. He's an active guy, drives a lot with the associations and so forth. And of course, Bright & Best International, a title sponsor of Fully Threaded Radio. Other title sponsors, Global Fasteners and Star Stainless. And the Fastener News Report is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. Again, we've got Mike McNulty with Scott McDaniel coming up momentarily. They're going to break the news on this latest FDI. But back to the book club for a moment. McNulty told me while we were getting the news segment ready this time, he actually went to the library and picked up The Ideal Team Player. Maybe he felt like he wasn't qualified to be on YFP. He's been around the industry for a few years, Zech.
We welcome everybody, to join the book club. You don't have to be a young professional or, be new to the industry. We encourage everybody to, take part. I think, even if you're not a young professional per se, I think you can still take something away from all the books that we do read.
Is there a published cutoff age, though, for YFP membership?
There is actually not a published cutoff age for YFP. And the reason why is because we encourage people that are new to the industry to get involved with the YFP. With everything that we do to, try and promote fastener knowledge and, networking within the industry, I think it's important, even if you consider yourself not a young professional, but you're new to the industry, we really encourage you to join and be a part of what YFP has to offer.
It's kind of like nobody tells you when it's time to get rid of your G.I. Joes and your Barbie dolls. You just kind of know when it's time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'll mention that to Valdez. All right, well, it's a pleasure, Zech Williams. You're with Würth Industry USA and the Young Fastener Professionals. Keep up the good work. Thank you for all of it on behalf of the fastener industry. And now you're going to do yet another service for the industry, and appreciate that as well. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed my time on Fully Threaded Radio today, and I'll be curious to, continue to listen to the future episodes. And with that, now with news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Zech. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. The Minnesota Vikings aren't the only thing that stinks in the land of 10,000 lakes. The Indiana Hoosiers claim the title of the best regular season college football team in the world. American consumerism's full-blown assault on Thanksgiving and Advent rages on, and Canada has caught the USA tariff fever virus. But I'm still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Scott McDaniel, Martin Executive Vice President and the NFDA's immediate past president, joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story from Cordova Bolt, plus newsmaker headlines from Fastenal, Spiral, BTM Manufacturing, Optimus, Bright & Best International, Linfast Solutions Group, Triangle Fastener, Portland Bolt, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about camaraderie. We'll get to all of that in the latest FDI results right after this.
Hey there, Fastener distributors. This is Heidi Voltrauer from Volt Industrial Plastics. As a fellow Fastener industry business, Volt knows you are always on the lookout for ways to help your customer while keeping costs in check. So, why not plastic? Listen, there's no argument that metal fasteners have to be used for certain applications. But when strength isn't the primary concern, why not explore the saving benefits of plastic? You not only save your company money, but also pass those savings on to your valued customers. Our team at Volt makes sourcing easy, and we look forward to helping you find exactly what you need when you need it. So, for all of your plastic fastener needs, you know the website, voltplastics.com.
From thousands of in-stock fasteners, including NAS and MS hardware, to custom parts built to your specifications, MW Components delivers. With U.S. manufacturing across 8 locations, we offer cold heading, precision machining, fully custom solutions, and engineering support for challenging applications. From rapid prototyping to full production, we deliver the capabilities and scale for your most demanding needs. Learn more at mwcomponents.com/fasteners.
Hello.
Hello.
You've been walking the Fastener Show for a while?
Yes. However, I'm wearing very comfortable shoes.
How would you like some Old Rusty Bolt beer?
I'm not a smart man, but Mama warned me about these things.
Well, that's probably because Mama never tried Old Rusty Bolt. Only the finest beverage in the fastener business.
All right. I'll give it a try. This is pretty good. I'm starting to feel funny. Jenny! Something's happening. Whoa. I feel.
Sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
Old Rusty Bolt, making the fastener world feel smarter, one beer at a time. So how do you feel?
I gotta pay.
I believe he said he had to pee. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud Fastener Show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt beer, official beer of the traveling salesman.
Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for November 2025 plunged to 49.5 after 2 solid months above 55. This was only the second below 50 reading of the last 10 and the third worst result of the year. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, moved up to 55.9 after posting a solid 51.7 in October. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we're going to talk to Scott McDaniel, Martin, Executive Vice President, and the NFDA's immediate past president. Hi, Scott. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Good to have you back. Last time was in December of last year, of 2024, and the FDI was below 50 then too. So what do you think about the latest FDI results?
Well, I'm certainly hoping it's not. It's nobody's dragging it down because of me. But it's great to be back again. It's been. I hope that we have as better year next year than we did this year.
Okay, so the numbers we had altogether, it looked like it was mostly drawn down by the sales number, but we had sales, inventories, and month-to-month pricing were all down, while employment, deliveries, and year-on-year pricing were all pretty flat. So what do the numbers tell you?
I think part of it's just really coming to the end of the year. Every year it seems like the business slows down, people get into that holiday mode. So it's I think the current year-end numbers reflect a lot of that. It's certainly been a challenging year. It's been a long year for everybody. I may not mention the T word, the tariff word, but there's been a lot of, certainly for us, and I think for other people in the industry that I've talked to, there was a long period of conflicting information, confusion. I think some people did really well and managed it really well. Others probably not quite so much, but I think with anything, you always hear, it's kind of like social media. You always hear the good things. You don't hear the bad things that are going on out there until they're really bad. But there was, it's certainly kept us busy and made sure that we were really laser focused on supporting our customers and developing deeper and broader relationships with our supply base around the world.
I didn't look back on everything, but it's been the talk of most every episode is the tariffs, and seems like every episode lately I say we have tariff fatigue, but doesn't seem to be going away now. Canada's jumped in on the fun, so.
It doesn't, but it's almost. I know I've talked to Eric a couple times over the last few months, and every month it seems like when the numbers come out, they're a little bit counterintuitive. So there's been times when I've heard more positivity out of the marketplace, and then I'm like, okay, things sound like they're getting better. There's maybe some bright spots, and then we'll get a downward trend in the numbers, and then at other times it's maybe not feeling quite as positive. And that the numbers and maybe other parts of the market. And again, it's such a big, broad market that it can trend a little bit. But I think overall, if I would known we would have done as well this year as we have at the last January, I would have been really happy. But it's there's always another wrinkle to uncover.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the trending, the sales numbers. Actually, this is the lowest one since back in May. And it was low in April as well. But so we had a pretty good string of sales months in June, July, August, September, and October, and then dropping down. These numbers were recorded right after Thanksgiving, so maybe people were fatigued from Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Maybe too much turkey.
Too much turkey. All right. So the other thing, let's talk about the 6-month outlook improved again to, really good. We have 52% of the respondents expecting things to be better 6 months from now, and 6 months from now will be solidly into 2026. 32% expecting them to be the same, and only 16 expecting them to be worse. And this is an improvement over 44, 34, and 22 last month. So maybe one of the best 6-month outlooks of the year. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, it feels like we've gone through hopefully the worst of the storm in terms of some of the government regulations and things. And there was, I think there's a lot of underlying demand when people talk about the heavy truck market, the ag market, the automotive markets are still, underperforming and struggling in a lot of places. And I think hopefully with the expectation of lower interest rates next year, people start opening up their pocketbooks a little bit, and hopefully prices start to stable. I think have been stabilizing, but they're certainly still elevated. I know my grocery bill from Thanksgiving shopping was evidence of that. But it was all really good. So I think that there's enough underlying hope that there's some pent up demand in those markets. And then obviously the data centers has gotten a lot of traction, I think, over the past year. And there's a lot of, investments that have been announced. So now I think it's time to start getting some of those investments shovel ready and start building out for data centers and additional power generation, power transmission markets. And then I think we'll, hopefully see a really strong next year in 27 and hopefully 28. But like everything, it's always cyclical. If I could predict it better, I would probably be retired on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, right.
But we're gonna keep pushing and trying to do the right things every day.
Yeah, well, data centers has been a hot topic, and I think AI would rival tariffs as maybe the most used or overused words of the year. So.
Yeah, it's AI is that's a full on topic on another call, I think. But there's a lot of different ideas. There's a lot of different opinions. But to me, it's kind of like I started before, I started work professionally just as the internet was really taking off, and I remember. My first company, we used to have dumb terminals, which were really just, there's no internet. It was just you were hooked into the network and you could see the inventory screens and sales screens. But
the
old green dot
green,
matrix. Right? Yep. And I remember back then even talking to people like, oh, this internet thing is who needs to know all that? This is never going to work. And you see now, 25 years later, or 28, just how ingrained everything is.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that AI will, could be something similar to that, but time will tell. But there's certainly opportunities there to, make people more efficient and give them the time and resources to focus on really what they're good at and what provides more value to themselves, to their companies, and their customers.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the exchange of information and everything that's going on in the background. And I live in an older neighborhood, but I see they're finally putting in some fiber optic cable in our neighborhood. I saw that going in today, so it's just going to keep going up.
Absolutely,
flow of information. All right, so the other number that Baird reports in their results, going along with the FDI, FLI, and the 6-month outlook, is they put on the PMI there and that dropped a little bit to 48.2 versus 48.7. And that is the ISM PMI for manufacturing. So same thing, they're seeing things decline, and that number's been below 50 the whole year. So they're saying, manufacturing is still struggling a little bit. But then last episode, guest was talking about the S&P global PMI that was a little broader based, and they're still above 50 there. So they're trending now.
Yeah, there's certainly still bright spots around the world. There's spots that are I think struggling more than the U.S. is. But at the end of the day, there was we had such a huge surge coming out of COVID with manufacturing and most industries that I think there's still been a little bit of pullback. I don't know that I've ever experienced a time when every single industry was up at the same time. So it's really trying to find a balance for any company, any distributor, to find a balance between those markets so that you can still enjoy the high points, but not suffer when things aren't so good, and you've got something to kind of offset that or balance it. Industries like medical and dental that are generally pretty recession proof because people will always get sick, people will always need healthcare, but there's not, they don't make as, I suppose thankfully they don't make as many dentists and hospital beds as they do automobiles. So those some of those markets still drive so much of the overall economy.
Yeah, but some of the best looking buildings around cities now are medical buildings. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So the new cathedrals. All right. Anything else you want to reply or comment about on the numbers before we move on to the commentary from the respondents?
No, again, I think it's a lot. It's not an uncommon year or uncommon numbers for this time of the year. And I've been maybe pleasantly surprised. This is the first year in probably the last 5 years that I didn't hear a lot of people talking about recessions pretty openly coming into the next year. And I think it's one of those, as the old saying goes, even a broken clock's right twice a day.
Yeah. Right.
But I think there's a lot more positive energy out in the marketplace. And, I have always felt that the self-fulfilling prophecy can get people into trouble sometimes, where if everything you hear is bad and everybody's, talking, is concerned about something, then, more likely than not, it's going to come true. So hopefully the self-fulfilling prophecy of people being positive about next year keeps people's, focused on growth and investment and building on what we saw this year.
Yeah, definitely the forward-looking indicator. Folks would agree with you. So second highest in the last year, it looks like. So look forward to 2026, which will be here pretty soon. So let's move on to the commentary. And I've got some comments here. I'll read them, and then you can jump in on any of them that you'd like. The first one, it says, November incoming order rate was strong after a slow start. Record year with 1 month to go. Expectations are high for 2026.
I think that's a fair thing. And one other point I'll probably add is that a lot of companies start shutting down coming into the holidays, and when we've seen challenging years, usually people were maybe extending those breaks. So instead of taking a week or two off for Christmas and the holidays, they'd make it a 3-week or 4-week shutdown, or people would retool. And I haven't really heard a lot of that either from our customers or other people out in the marketplace. So it seems like people are trying to get as much stuff done this year. Manufacturers are trying to get as much done this year so that they're ready for next year. Which is certainly a positive sign.
Good. All right, next one. Even though activity was up with our customers, the second half of the month slowed down more than usual due to the holiday. He was talking about November. Expect the unworked demand to climb sharply at the beginning of December.
Yep. No, it's I think that's a good take on that. And it's Thanksgiving. The way holidays usually fall can have a pretty big impact on monthly results. The 4th of July, for example, depending on where that falls, that'll affect the numbers. Thanksgiving, thankfully, is always on a Thursday, so it's always kind of that weekend.
Couldn't get later than it was there.
Absolutely. But no, it seems like we had actually really strong November, stronger than we were expecting. So, but December started out well so far.
Good. Next one, really no solid trends to project that far out. Just not enough stability in the marketplace with foreign policy, tariffs, plus erratic consumption from our customers, end quote.
Yeah, it's I'll say we haven't seen a lot of supply chain disruptions this year, which is great to see. It certainly simplifies the supply chain transportation worlds, and that's not to say that we won't see something next year. But Chinese New Year is coming around. It seems like some people are always shocked that every Chinese New Year freight rates go up, but it's been on the calendar as long as I can remember. So it will be we'll have some impact. There'll be some changes, but yeah, I think it'll be. I don't expect it to be anything significantly concerning.
All right, so we've got two short ones that are related to business. We're currently tracking year-over-year sales up at 51%. And the second one is we are rolling out a lot of new business in Q1, Q2 of 2026. So two positive.
Wow, 51% is very impressive. We've had a good year as well. Not more in the high teens, but I think it's anytime you grow that quickly, there's challenges just in terms of staffing and taking care of your existing business, especially if it's new customers coming in. But that's very impressive. I've heard a lot of people talk about new business gain. So I think my question is, well, where's the new business coming from? Always is it nobody ever talks about when they lose business, but I think it's good to see customers that are willing to go out and still look at supply chain changes, especially with all the tariff pricing and everything else that's out there. So I think that's a very positive sign, and congratulations to those companies.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, the last two comments both have tariffs in the subject. Who says, again, predicting what havoc the tariffs will impose is a challenge. Hurry up and wait. And then the last comment is kind of an insightful one. I thought this was my favorite of the group. While tariffs have stolen much time from our business, they have allowed for deeper partner relationships with both customers and suppliers. So that's a good thing coming out of a difficult thing.
I think it certainly is. And it was, I think that one of the interesting things about the tariffs this time around versus what we saw in 2016, 2017, was a lot of people tried to move out of China back then. This time around, there really wasn't anywhere to move to outside of domestic manufacturing. And as we all know, you've talked about it, I know, extensively, there just isn't enough manufacturing capacity in the U.S. or even in North America. So hopefully it's, there's people that are working on new investments to see that supply chain shortened. And I know Europe, with all of their new regulations, are trying to do similar things just under a different name.
All right. Anything else you want to mention on the FDI or the FLI or the comments before we let you give a chance to tell the listeners what's going on at Martin as well as the NFDA?
No. I hope that my appearance has good tidings for next year, but appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody, and it's always interesting to hear the variety of speakers within the calls.
Yeah, well, maybe next time we talk, we'll be above 50 on the FDI. That'll be the goal, right?
That'll be a goal. Yes, I'll be ready.
All right. So what's going on at Martin? I saw you guys were on a couple of the big 50 distributor lists this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've last year, I think I had mentioned last time I was on, we celebrated our 90th anniversary last year. We've continued to see really good growth. We had a huge focus on our culture and kind of walking through our culture with our teams, just making sure that that's deeply ingrained. It's something that our founder, Louis Martin, and really started along with Don Ruggles when he was leading the business, and Gordon, David, and Doug Ruggles have done an absolutely fantastic job. So it's truly a special place. So I'm very blessed to be here. And as I mentioned, we've seen good growth throughout the year, both with existing customers, but also bringing new customers in. And the tariff piece of it, I think one of the comments was enabling deeper relationships with both suppliers and customers. I'm thankful that we've got absolutely fantastic management and leadership team here that helps us do those things every day. So it's truly been a great experience for me. And personally, I think from the last time we talked, my family and I actually relocated to Jackson, Tennessee. So we're currently this is the furthest south I've ever lived, but it's been an absolutely amazing town. And I've really enjoyed that.
Enjoying the weather?
We are. It's a little chilly, but I've lived in Minnesota before. For anybody that knew me back then, so I've lived in
It's like a
Minnesota
heat
twice
wave down
actually.
there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. This is after experiencing the 33 below air temperature during one of the polar vortexes. I'm not. I'm very thankful for everybody to complain when it's like 32 and cold down here. So it's all relative.
Yeah, and so you got the family all settled in. I mean, before we got on, we were talking about high school football and college football, and your family's all enjoying Tennessee.
Yeah, no, they are. My oldest son is a freshman at Southeast Missouri State, focusing on aviation, so he wants to be a pilot. And as he's got finals this week, so I'm looking forward to having him home. And my daughter is a cheerleader at University School of Jackson here in Jackson, and they were actually they lost in the state championship game last week. So, but the quarterback on the other team was a kid that just was number one ranked quarterback in the country and flipped from Georgia to Vanderbilt. So it'll be interesting to see him on the field next year. But he was certainly a special player. So
what's his name? We'll put...
Jared, but he's I suppose he's a real good kid. But is interesting to see him play.
Yeah, well, it's always tough to. I mean, it's great to make it to the state final. Tough to lose there, but they'll still remember the experience.
It was a great experience, absolutely.
All right. Also, you're the immediate past president of the NFDA, and I know the NFDA has a lot of things going on planned for 2026. You want to jump into any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's being on the NFDA board has been probably one of the greatest honors of my career. So I'm very thankful for that and give back to the industry a little bit. A couple months ago, we were in Key West for the Executive Summit, which was an absolutely fantastic experience. We had some outstanding guest speakers and really just a great chance to network, talk to people that you don't see or talk to all the time and share stories, share information, share best practices. And next June, we have our annual meeting coming up in Indianapolis. So for anybody that's not familiar with the NFDA, take a look at it. It's I think an outstanding organization. There's a lot of really good regional groups, but I think this hopefully brings everybody together. And we've added a couple new board members over the past year. So really excited about having kind of new faces, new blood, new opinions on how to best serve the industry and provide both educational as well as professional development opportunities. So it's looking forward to seeing everybody in June in Indy next June.
Yeah, that's I was looking at it. I saw a graphic for all the upcoming events for the NFDA, and there was a picture of a bunch of people on a yacht.
Yes, I was.
That was in Key West,
I think
right?
that was in
that
Key
picture.
West. Yes, I'm a huge Jimmy Buffett fan.
Okay.
A huge parrot head. So it's anytime I get to go down to Key West and kind of retrace some of his footsteps, it's a great experience for me.
Yeah, so Indianapolis has got a lot going on too, but I don't think you'll see any yachts there. But
No, but it's I actually lived near India for a couple of years, so it's almost like going home again. So
okay.
Great city, very walkable. I think it'll be a great time for everybody that's able to attend.
Well, we'll tie it back into college football. I think the whole state's a little excited about the Hoosiers beating the Buckeyes.
I was at a Christmas party, so I only got to see about half of the game, but it was great to see the Hoosiers perform as well as they have. I know it's as much as I've moved, I've always tried to support kind of some of the local teams. My college didn't have a football team, so I've kind of always been a free agent. But IU football, didn't have a lot to cheer for many years. But seeing the way they've performed and excelled this year and last year has been fantastic for the state. Yeah,
good for them. They seem pretty excited. So, all right. Anything else?
No. Thank you for the opportunity. Hope everybody has a very very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday. And I look forward to an even better 2026.
All right. Very good. Thanks for coming on, sharing your insights and experiences, and look forward to having you on again in the next year.
Thank you very much.
That was Scott McDaniel, Martin Executive Vice President and the NFDA's immediate past president. The FDI number for November 2025 was 49.5 versus 55.3 in October. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. This year, Cordova Bolt in Buena Park, California celebrates 50 years in business, a milestone few companies reach, even fewer achieved with their founding values still intact. The company was founded in 1975 by Moses E. Cordova and his wife, Rachel Verinda Cordova. Moses, a U.S. Navy radio man and the son of a southern Colorado coal miner, built his career on determination, famously calling a steel company owner every day for 30 consecutive days until he was hired. Rachel, a Colorado native with accounting experience, played an essential role early on, returning to the business world after raising their family and helping establish the company's financial and operational systems. Today, Cordova Bolt operates from a centrally located warehouse stocked with millions of pounds of fasteners. The company services all 50 USA states and exports worldwide. Known for sourcing hard-to-find components, the Cordova sales team has built a reputation for delivering where others cannot. Structural fasteners remain the company's bread and butter, and its products can be found holding together some of the nation's most iconic structures, including SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, Buena Vista Towers in San Francisco, the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas, and many other bridges, hospitals, stadiums, and arenas. The company continues to support both small manufacturers and global corporations with export packaging, kiting services, local delivery, and customized 24/7 emergency response. Cordova Bolt remains a family-owned business now led by the next generation. Matthew Cordova serves as president and CEO, and working alongside him is his wife, Lori Cordova, who oversees administrative operations. Together, the Cordova leadership team continues to honor the company's founding values while advancing technology, strategic partnerships, and modern operational systems. The company extends sincere gratitude to its dedicated employees, loyal customers, valued partners, and friends who continued support helped shape its journey. Turn to page 5 of the December 15, 2025 Fastener News Report newsletter to see a Cordova Bolt anniversary picture. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, Portland Bolt Manufacturing completed an expansion of its Southeast manufacturing facility in South Carolina. Fastenal entered into a multi-year agreement with the Edmonton Oilers. PGB Holding acquired Dutch fastener distributor Gabu Volkel. Boeing Distribution launched a unified e-commerce site. Packer Fastener opened a new branch in Iowa. Spiral expanded its e-commerce platform to include press-in lock pins. TrueLink Capital agreed to acquire Southern Carlson. Crossroad Distributor Source partnered with Ascension Equipment Sales, and BTM Manufacturing added a rebuilt planetary threader to its facility. In personnel news, Optimus Solutions named John Dick as Vice President, Commercial Development. Sean Dyer joined the Distribution Solutions Group leadership team as Senior Vice President, Head of M&A and Strategy. Stanley Black & Decker appointed Agustin Lopez Diaz as Chief Global Supply Chain Officer. Simpson Strong hired Kai Bullock as its new Executive Vice President of Human Resources. Brighton Best International promoted Vivian Cabin to Miami Branch Manager. Linfast Solutions Group appointed Heather Skiba Senior Vice President of Operations for North America, and Triangle Fastener Corporation promoted John Esposito to Southern District Manager. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about camaraderie. Camaraderie shows up in many settings where people work toward a shared purpose. You can see it in military units, sports teams, schools, charities, trade groups, and on the job. I saw a strong example of it at the 2025 IFE Fall Meeting in Louisville, Kentucky, which was discussed in an interview segment in the last episode of Fully Threaded Radio. The event, organized by the Industrial Fasteners Institute, offered solid content, learning, networking, and collaboration. But what stood out most to me as a first-time attendee was the steady sense of trust, goodwill, support, and morale among the members and guests. I think it may stem from the demands of making things. The IFI represents manufacturers of mechanical fasteners and form parts produced in North America, and it was good to see the flags of the USA, Canada, and Mexico displayed together in Louisville. Another nice touch was taking the time for every attendee, nearly 200 altogether, to introduce themselves at the beginning of the general session. A full report of the meeting, along with some good images, appears on pages 20 and 21 of the December-January issue of Fastener Technology International Magazine. Next up for the IFI is its 2026 IFI Annual Spring Meeting, scheduled for March 7th through 10th, 2026, in Scottsdale, Arizona. Events will include a board meeting, dinner receptions, keynote speakers, tours, golf, and divisional meetings. IFI's primary members are fastener makers. Associate membership is open to any corporation, firm, or partnership with a technical presence in North America that supplies materials, machinery, equipment, or services to the North American manufacturers of industrial fasteners and foreign parts. If you're interested in joining the IFI, visit indfast.org/membership and get a taste of fastener manufacturing camaraderie. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. From the beginning, Star has offered two major things to our customers. First, we stock a large diversified inventory of sizes, with inventory on hand so you can receive it right off the shelf. Second, we offer personal, friendly, efficient service from placing your order all the way to delivery. Star quality is more than products. It's simple. We're Star.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. INXSQL.com.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and Carver Labs in beautiful El Cajon, California. As is commonly the case, today's topic comes from a question via email from one of our Carver Labs clients. The question, I'll just read it to you because it's short. It says, "Hi, Carmen. Can you please give me clarification on the ASTM A193B7 markings? The spec says studs have to be stamped, and I have always taken that to mean all threaded rod. However, we have a vendor that is telling us that it only applies to cut studs, not sticks of all thread. Can you please advise?" Well, that is an excellent question, and I have firsthand background on it. Also, obviously, we're going to not use my background to answer the questions. We'll use the standard. And when we return, I will tell you what the correct markings for a 193B7 threaded rod would be.
You hear that? Your line is speaking to you. It's asking you a question. Are we good enough? Is good enough good enough? Are we delivering the best possible solution? Will what we make stand the test of time? Can we be bigger, faster, safer, smarter? Can we get what we need before we need it? Can we increase production? Can we be more precise? Can we work day and night for weeks on end? Can we create what's never been done? Yes, we can. Let's discover your worth.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTIO. Solution Industry. We are Solution.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Today's question revolves around the marking requirements for ASTM A194B7 threaded rod. Now, a threaded rod, first off, is not the same thing as a stud. A stud is a fastener that typically may or may not be provided with nuts, but it's cut and chamfered. And to be clear, A193 requires that studs are marked. If they are 3/8 of an inch or larger, you must put the manufacturer's mark and the grade mark on the stud. You can use both ends if you have to. And if it's a 1/4 inch or larger bolt, the markings will be on the head. But today's question had to do with threaded rods. Now, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, depending upon what committee you're on, A193 is not much help in this regard because it doesn't answer the question. It sends us to another standard. It sends us to ASTM A962/A962M. And A962 will tell us what the requirements are. But first we go to paragraph 4.1 of A193, and it says, bolting materials and bolting components supplied to this specification shall conform to the requirements of specification A962, A962M. These requirements include test methods, finish, thread dimensions, macro etch, alloy steel only, marking, certification, optional, supplementary, blah, blah, blah. And then it says if you don't comply with A962, you don't comply here. So we get that. So we know we have to go to A962. There is another place in A193 where they address marking, paragraph 15. It says product marking, and that just says CA962, but then it also references Table 4 and Table 5, which tell us what those grade markings shall be. Incidentally, it does also give us a piece of information unrelated to the question that lets us know grade B7M, which is a modification of grade B7, no longer requires a line under the grade symbol. However, the line is permitted. That's a little bit of history. We'll talk about that in a future Fastener Training Minute. So now we know where we have to go. We're going down the rabbit hole to ASTM A962. Let's find out what it says. And ASTM A962 covers the quality requirements, or what we call common requirements for bolting materials intended for extreme temperature use, high and low temperatures, whereas A193 covers high temperature materials. By the way, these standards that start with A, they are not all, but generally they're made by the A01 Steel Committee, not the F16 Fastener Committee. So they tend to be a bit convoluted and address more steel and material properties than fastener issues. However, it's good to know that A962 is applicable to not only A193, but also A194 for bolts, A320 for low temperature service, A47, which is very special bolting used in turbines, A453, which is high temperature bolting, A540, which is steel bolting for special applications made of precipitation hardening steel, and A1082, which covers duplex and super duplex stainless steel. So A962 is a very important standard, and none of those other standards stand on their own. They require A962 to complete the requirement. So to answer the question, let's see what A962 says about marking. Starts off, if we go to section 20, it says bars, and you have to know the definition of a bar. It can be a threaded bar or a unthreaded bar that you intend to thread. Bars shall be marked in accordance with specification A29, A484 as applicable. That really is not relevant. Then it says bolting materials, including threaded bar, furnished, bundled, and tagged, shall carry. I don't like that word carry, but that's the word they use. Shall carry the grade symbol for the material and the manufacturer's identification symbol or name. And here's the important thing. Marking of individual bars is not required as long as the bars are bundled and tagged or boxed. So we do not require that mark. And by the way, this would apply to B16 as well, or actually any material in A193. So it just has to have a tag, or the box that it's in needs to be marked. And we commonly see these threaded rods come in cardboard tubes, which is the same thing as a box. While we're on the topic, I mentioned B16. B16 and B7 are very similar materials, both made of alloy steel. B16 requires an alloy steel that contains vanadium. It's intended for higher temperature applications up around the 1100 degree Fahrenheit range, whereas B7 is limited to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, they have the same marking requirements. Now, I recall I said I have some background in this. I worked for a fastener supplier back in the day, a distributor, and we stocked B16 rod and B7 rod in 3-foot lengths and I think 6, 10, and 12-foot lengths that stocked. And it was just black steel. And they look exactly the same. You cannot tell the difference by looking at them, except you can tell the difference because B16 tastes like fried chicken, B7 tastes like tuna fish. So if you want to take that test, you can figure out which one is which. However, there was an industry sort of, it's not a standard, I guess it would be a practice. They would paint the ends of the B7 rod red, and they would paint the ends of the B16 rod blue. So that really helped us a lot to keep them sorted out in the warehouse because we just kept them on a rack and you would go and get them. Now, we cannot give that to the customer without putting a tag on it or doing something to indicate who the manufacturer is. And of course, you want to have lot traceability. That's another requirement. We have a lot number and the grade marking on that tag. Well, that's it. I don't think there's much more to know about marking for ASTM A193 B7 and, of course, B16. I threw that in there that we didn't say here. It's pretty common knowledge for people in this business to know that marking convention. But the important thing to realize is a threaded rod, no matter how short it is, it could be 24, it could be 12, it could be 36. No length is given, it could be 12 feet. Threaded bars are not studs, they're threaded bars, and studs are not threaded rod, they're studs. So the studs should be marked and it should also be chamfered. That's the requirement. All right, that's it for now. This has been Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute. I hope you learned something, and thanks for listening.
This is George Hunt III from Brighton Best International, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you for the finale feature segment of the 2025 podcast season. Can you believe it, Bri?
No, it's amazing. Yeah, the whole year's really whizzed past way too fast.
It's been a year, yeah. Well, we couldn't think of any better way to close it out than to invite our old friend, the ever jovial Rick Rudolph with Rudolph & Associates, well-known rep from the Northeast. Hey, Rick.
How are you? Good to hear from you, Eric and Brian.
Likewise. Staying warm, I hope, up there.
Oh, it's very warm here.
Yeah, no, it always is. It's always warmer than where we are. It's a pain in the neck.
We're up to 13 degrees. It started out at 5:30 this morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And while we're sitting here chatting, there are two plumbers trying to fix my pipes that froze.
Oh, geez. Already?
Yeah.
Already, yes. Yep.
So hang on. Now, what happened? This is the first real cold snap of the year for you guys up there, and you did what? You forgot to keep the water dripping, or what did you do differently this year that you got a pipe burst situation?
I'm not sure. I think it just got so darn cold. I'm hoping that tomorrow it's supposed to warm up. I just hope that we don't have a flood. You know, sometimes it's better to leave it cold than to have a warming trend. But, we'll see how it plays out and also see how much it's going to cost me. Because I've got two of them up there right now.
Well, you hope they've fixed it no matter what, because it has to be fixed.
Yes, yeah. Don't want it to wind up with the ceilings coming down. Has that ever happened to you folks?
Oh, now here's a story, Brian.
Yes, it has. It goes back, I don't know, years. Eric and I had an office that was really in an apartment complex. And even though they thought it was a bit weird, but for us, it was a really good office because it had, separate bedrooms, which we could use as our own offices, but it had a bathroom and a shower. So we could go from the gym straight to the office and we had showers and everything. And it was really cool.
Washer and dryer too.
Oh, everything. So it was a really cool. Just that the people who were, letting apartments weren't quite used to two people who never lived there. Anyway, we got over that. But one time I came back from the gym. It was very, very cold. and I came back, went and had a shower. When I came out of the shower, there was this water all over the floor. And so it was a bit awkward trying to put my pants back on, but I did manage. And I opened the door and there was water over the floor of the whole apartment, and water was just pouring out of the roof, and part of the ceiling had collapsed. One of the pipes broke when I turned the shower on. And so I had to, call the fire brigade, and then I had to stand outside in the cold. I still couldn't get back into my room to get all my clothes. Had to stand out in the snow while they tried to get the water out.
Yeah, so during this whole ice tsunami that was happening, sadly, I was already ensconced in my desert holiday location out in Arizona. So Brian calls me up and told me what was going on. I felt terrible, but, had mixed feelings about it overall, I'd have to say, in hindsight.
Yeah, you're really happy that you weren't there, right? So, Rick, we hope nothing like this happens to you, okay? It's just terrible.
It's not fun.
No. And my wife is not in Arizona. She's in Boston taking care of patients at a hospital there. So hopefully these plumbers will get it all fixed before she comes home.
Well, all I can say, Rick, is if it is going to happen, make sure you don't have any servers directly underneath the ceiling cave-in area, because Brian and I, boy, we dodged a bullet. All our server equipment was really closely. Oh, man, what an ordeal. All right. Well, we are obviously, I don't know when folks are listening to this, but we're recording it as the winter sets in. Apparently, I've been advised we're having an El Nino or La Nina, I guess it is, which means we're going to have really crappy weather overall, an old-fashioned winter, despite all the rampant climate change that apparently is impacting planet Earth. But be that as it may, you're a well-known rep out there in the East Coast, and you do what I don't even want to guess how many miles a year you travel. Do you pull it back a little bit in the winter months, or do you just keep driving until the snow flies?
Well, it's I do between 700 and 1,400 miles a week. So I go through a lot of cars and a lot of oil changes and
yeah, right.
You should get an automotive sponsor, Rick, if you don't have one already. You'd be a great
Yeah, or get Shell or Castrol to sponsor you.
That's a great idea. If any of those people are listening, make sure you give them my contact information when they call you, okay?
I will. I don't think they are, though.
No, probably not. But I try to see everybody. I try to see all my customers year round. I don't go to Florida for the winter. I go to Bangor, Maine, Burlington, Vermont, Buffalo, all the garden spots of, North America, the Northeast. And, sometimes it's right up there on the border, with Quebec. So people complain about the heat, so I send them pictures of snowdrifts.
Wait, who's complaining about the heat?
Well, some of the people down in Florida,
Of course.
Some of my principals down there. I don't have customers. I get enough of a territory. I don't need to be traveling down there. But anyways, this time of year, I'm on the road, dropping off tins of cookies and calendars and different little things. I usually get invited to quite a few of the Christmas parties for the people or the holiday parties for my customers, because they feel bad for this lonely old guy driving around the countryside.
Oh, please.
I forgot to bring my violin. Sorry.
Rick, anybody who knows you knows you have a whitish beard these days. So do you let it grow out a little bit for this time of year?
No, because my wife thinks it makes me, when I did have a full beard, and she made me trim it because she said it makes me look 10 years older, which kind of scares her a little bit because I already am old. So,
yeah, you don't need to get any older, right? I'd be the same.
But it's nice, though, to be out and seeing everybody, because it's, I'm calling on people, children and the grandchildren of the people I used to call on back in the early days when I was repping.
So you're an old school rep. I mean, you're doing the things that you've done for many years. They still work for you, obviously. And I was going to ask you about that relating to younger customers, So by and large, has it transitioned well for you? So the founders and the people that you started with, you've watch them retire and their kids and grandkids are running it now? I mean, how do you do that? Is it pretty smooth? Can you relate to these younger people?
Yes. I mean, I've got my son Morgan's my business partner, as you know. And
yeah, but doesn't he mainly watch over your Caribbean accounts?
No. He actually did spend a lot of, I think you know that he did spend quite a bit of time being a sea captain and running charter boats 6 months a year and in the New England area, and then 6 months a year in St. Thomas. And he's had an interesting life. And I took him to one North Coast Fastener meeting on hydrogen embrittlement. I think you folks remember that one, don't you?
Kidding, that was epic.
Oh, yeah. And he couldn't keep away from it and decided he just wanted to immerse himself in the fastener world. And he's done very well with it. And, he just finished a couple of years as being president of the New England Fastener Association. And he's very much moved into the realm of being a fastener guy for life. It just happens to you. You can't get out of the business, right? Once you get into it, they say you can't get out of it.
Yep.
So how did you actually first get into it? I'm sure we've covered this before, but what made you get into the industry?
Well, I went to Northeastern University here in Boston on a football scholarship, and it was a 5-year plan, co-op. We'd go to school for 3 months and then work for 3 months in the industry. And my brother, who was 8 years older than me, was a civil engineer, and he ran a construction company. And I worked for him in construction during the months that I wasn't going to school, and wanted to get into the sales aspect of building supplies and that type of thing, because one of the jobs that I did have that was actually through the university was with a company that was a master distributor for Anderson Windows and Morgan Doors.
Okay.
And so got to know that part of the business pretty well. But then when I graduated, I wanted to get into that. And everyone said, well, come back when you get some sales experience. But I said, well, how do you get sales experience if you,
right?
If you can't get a job to do it? And I answered an ad, and it was for a company called Rhode Island Bolt and Screw out of Warwick, Rhode Island. And they had a branch that they were opening in Massachusetts, and they needed someone to be an outside salesman for them. The owner of the company's father, who'd been in the fastener business all his life, said, here's the standards book, study it. All your 12 years of public schooling, your college years, all they did was teach you how to learn your industry that you're going to go into. So I studied the book. And one day the branch manager that I was working under came in and was making some calls on the phone calls to customers. And he said, I'm going to break for lunch, man the fort. And he never came back.
Really?
And I became the branch manager.
Where did he go?
Yeah. So, they had to send somebody up with keys to the building because they didn't give keys to lock it or whatever. And the fella just took off, and they couldn't find him for a couple of weeks. And he had some personal problems, and they decided that, hey, you're doing a halfway decent job. Stay with it. So I did. And so that's how I got into the business.
Wow.
And then from there, it was knowledge is power. And I went from there to going with Precision Socket Screw, which was a master distributor that eventually was bought by American Socket, which was eventually bought by Bright & Best.
Mm-hmm.
And they already had VPs of sales and marketing.
What years are we talking about here, Rick?
Late 70s. They started off in the business in 71.
Okay.
And by the time the early 80s, I went out and became a manufacturer's agent because I was working with the sales rep. So I paid attention to the old timers at that time who, Marty Nolan's Dad, Gil Nolan, and Bob English that owned the RL English Company, and Russ Phillips in upstate New York, and, all the good reps that I had the pleasure of working with and traveling with and being mentored by. And I got to learn what things worked and what things didn't work, and what the good ones did and, what the bad ones did that we terminated because they weren't performing well.
I want to go back to a thing that Eric asked you earlier, because the whole issue of sales repping is something that we think of sort of a little bit in the past. And just as we see, and I'm sure everyone else has seen, that the younger people in the industry who will one day become the older people in the industry, the way they deal with sales is a little different. They're more likely to be using their phone to deal with sales, okay? Or sales, looking up stuff.
Right.
So how do they deal with you turning up to see them and sell them something? Is it strange to them, or have people warned them? This is how it works.
Well, for some people, it's kind of shocking. We believe and we promote the fact that we like to do face-to-face. There are a number of people who, people jokingly call telereps, because they, as you say, just use the phone, say, thank you, how's things going? Oh, good, let me know if you have any problems or whatever. But I've always found that when you show up and you look eye to eye to the people and they see that you're there, even during COVID, I had people, because after a while, I just got kind of tired of making phone calls and trying to do Zoom calls and Teams calls and that type of thing. And I said, do you allow people in the building? And no, we don't even let the truck drivers use a bathroom. I went, oh, okay. But if you were to come in, I know that you wouldn't come in and try to infect us all. So they would take me in, and I just never stopped. I've had situations where I've been banned by dry cleaners.
Oh, for what?
Well, because one of the things is, people will show me, give me samples, say, hey, can you quote on this? I don't know what the heck it is. And both Morgan and this fellow Dan Beelfield, who covers part of the territory in the mid-Atlantic states for us, we all carry thread gauges with us. We carry vernier calipers and micrometers in the cars.
Okay, I can't wait to find out how this leads to dry cleaning.
Okay, well, I'm coming around to it. As my wife says, come on, Rick, come in for a landing. So I will. So sometimes I don't always take the samples out of my pocket.
Yes, I figured.
Yeah. And I had not one, but two dry cleaners say, he said, what kind of business are you in? I said, I'm in the fastener business. Like what? What are fasteners? Like buttons and zippers? Like, I bolts, nuts, screws, washers, rivets, that type of thing. Oh, gee, do you know what this is? I found this in my dry cleaning setup, and I had to call in a guy, and I had to pay him $200 to go do a call in the building. And he says, none of this came from the machine. They didn't get loose. So where do you think they came from? And I go, well, could be they came out of my pocket.
No, I've got no idea. Really?
I should have stuck with that. But,
yeah.
Okay. A couple people said, why don't you take your business elsewhere? You're costing me too much money. So, yeah, that's why I got banned. They weren't very good dry cleaners anyways. Right. They're not around anymore. As with a lot of things.
Well, the machinery probably broke.
Well, that's probably what I should have said, but I didn't. Blame it on someone else. No, so I just feel that it's when you're doing face-to-face with people, you get to know them, you get to know their families, you get to know their personal situations. I'm there talking to them, and, oh, yeah, last week I went someplace, and my wife took me out for my birthday. Oh, your birthday was last week. So next year, he gets a birthday card from me. And people go, you really send out birthday cards to your customers? And I go, yeah. If you know them, they become your friends. And, the fellow who hired me as well, I was a rep, and he was selling his company to Würth, actually. Bill Wiss down at Eastern Fastener in Connecticut. And I'd been calling on Bill for years. and he and I served on the board of directors for the New England Fastener Association. When it came time to sell the business, he needed to find someone to be the president of the company, and he had 3 family members that worked there, and they all suggested, why don't you get Rick? He's a good, solid guy. So he invited me down, and I sat down with him, and it was on a Sunday, and I was on my way to play in a rugby tournament, and he said, I'd like to talk to you about possibly taking over and being president of the company. And I said, well, what happens if you decide to sell the business? What happens to me then? He said, oh, I've already done that. They want me to find a successor. So I'm suggesting you. And the fellow that was handling the mergers and acquisitions for Würth at the time was a fellow by the name of Ben Tabor. And Ben came out of the adjoining room and said, yep, they sold it all right to Würth. And I said, son of a gun. So my partner at the time, God bless him, was a fellow by the name of John Phelan. And I had to tell him that I was leaving the agency and going to be the president at Würth Easton Fasteners. And he was very, very distraught. I mean, he just shook his head and he said, I can't believe this. And he goes, wait a minute, does that mean I get to keep all the money? And I go, yep. He goes, okay, good. Poor John, we lost him last year. He passed away last December. And Bill West, the fellow that hired me, passed away 2 months ago. So that's the hardest part, is saying goodbye to old friends from the industry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're only 20 or 30. It catches up with you a bit later on.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I know it's kind of strange. My high school graduating class, they stopped having reunions. They call them birthday party celebrations. And then they stopped calling them that because the numbers were too large as for how old we were. So they go, yeah, we're going to start having them now between 1 and 5 at a local country club, because none of us, drive at night anymore. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, when I leave my house at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and get into Gaithersburg, Maryland at midnight and work my way back the coast, I'm driving a lot at night so that I don't want to waste time during daytime when I can be making sales calls. But my wife went with me to one of them, and she is a geriatric nurse practitioner. And we got into the car after the first birthday celebration, and she goes, she says, you can't retire. I go, what do you mean I can't retire? She goes, well, first of all, you love what you do. And I do. And I just look at it as I'm going around visiting with my friends, my old friends. And she said, because all the people that I talk to that have obvious cognitive impairment, manifesting with eye contact and forgetting what they're saying, or forgetting that they're even talking to you and walking away, she said, you're still sharp as a tack. Wait a second, I shouldn't say that, because we had somebody that was sharp as a tack that turned out wasn't sharp as a tack. But anyhow, I digress again. And she said, but, staying on top of quotes, staying on top of orders and all the different things that go on in business keeps your mind active. And she said all the people I talked to who were having problems with cognition had retired early, and they sit around the house and watch reruns of Leave It to Beaver or whatever.
Rawhide, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just doing what the wife told me to do.
Right. Keeps you occupied, okay?
Yes, it does. It does, right.
So you're staying off the road at night mostly because of your eyesight, is it? Or is it because of all the moose rutting season up there?
What'd you say, the deer season?
Oh, the moose rutting. Well, the deer are bad enough, but you have way up there, you have the moose, right? I mean, those guys will do a little number on your car when they come through the windshield.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, for some of the folks who are listening to this that remember Whitney Screw in Nashua, New Hampshire, the bookkeeper for Whitney Screw, she and her husband were up in the White Mountains driving along, and the husband wound up hitting a moose, and it came out on the hood of the car, and the antlers went through and actually decapitated the poor lady.
Oh,
His
geez.
wife.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Very sad. And now we've got black bear warnings as well as moose warnings as well as deer warnings. And yeah, my son Morgan was driving one night and a deer ran into his car and cost a heck of a lot of money to fix that one up. Yeah, you have to be careful of your surroundings while you're out on the road.
Wow. Okay. Well, I kind of threw that out there in jest. I didn't realize it was going to lead to a tragic reality story, but I guess it was Fastener related at least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The whole conversation, actually, Rick, I introduced you as the always jovial, and I don't know if it's necessarily hitting that mark quite yet, especially around the holidays. Are there any reindeer related stories by any chance?
Well, yes, actually, because when I would call somebody or even now, and they say, well, who should I say is calling? And I go, Rick Rudolph. Yeah, and this is Mrs. Claus. All
right.
Who is this really? And I go, that's my real name. But that only happens between Thanksgiving and probably around the middle of January.
Right. I'm sure you get a lot of mileage out of that one. That's good. I walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did.
You did.
Okay. Well, that's your stock and trade there. Use it, use it. So let's get back to the question then. You're this old school gumshoe kind of sales rep and old school, but very effective. And Brian and my questions from earlier were about how that's translating into the current generation of fastener professionals. And we like to kind of bring this up to the present moment where you're always taking the pulse of the industry to see what you're seeing up in your region.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Right now, there seems to be a lot of activity as far as quoting. A lot of people are trying to figure out, are they getting the best prices? So, whereas in the past, we'd have people would get a quote on something or 2 or 3 items and they'd place an order. Now they're saying they're just going back to their customers. The customers are asking them to re-quote to see if they can get better pricing because of the tariff situation. And, are they being taken advantage of by their present supplier? Because everyone's looking for, of course, the best pricing out there and to get the best margins. So there seems to be more quoting going on than ordering going on. And I think a lot of people, they ask me about, what about this? What about that? And it all comes down to some people are taking advantage of when the tariffs first were announced, some people started putting the pricing on for stuff they've had in stock for 8 years.
Yep.
Taking advantage of that, looking at the replacement cost. I think a lot of people were hesitant about, passing on the tariff situation to their customers for fear that they would lose them. But after a while, when you're taking a look and your margins are dwindling, you have to do that. And I think people understand that now. But it's day to day, it's changing rapidly. I mean, 1 week they have a tariff, the next week they've cut a deal with that country and the tariff's been reduced or eliminated. And
you can't predict anything because you've got no idea whether the president has a nightmare and wakes up and suddenly decides he's going to put tariffs on them someplace double what they were the day before. It's chaotic, actually.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for buyers and management of any distributorship or manufacturer, because some of their raw materials are included in there. And now, some of the different minerals that are going on, the tariffs on those. It's a difficult time, but there's never been a time where it's been a piece of cake, really, These are things that come up, and it's how you address it. Everyone has problems. It's how you address the problems and how you try to rectify it, and just be upfront with your customer. I try not to lie to people because I can't remember my lies, so I try to be as honest.
Yeah. Right, that's a very smart move, okay? What did I tell you last week?
And that comes full circle to the idea of keeping face time and maintaining that trust, that confidence that you've developed over the years. And we'll wind it back to the holiday season, which we're in as we record this. You're busy sending out Christmas cards and calendars. That's a little archaic in this day and age, but it's a very sweet and heartfelt gesture. and you still do it. Didn't you say cookies as well? Now, where do you get these cookies?
I buy them by the case. And the people love them. I've been doing the same brand I've bought for the last 15, 20 years. And Belgian cookies with the chocolate.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. You never get in any trouble with any food allergies or anything? It's kind of a thing that happens these days. People getting all PO'd with you that you give them something that was cooked with peanuts.
Well, it's interesting because I did have to go back a little bit on. Used to get these big jars of M&M's chocolate-covered peanuts.
Oh, gee, Rick.
And then I was dressed down by somebody saying, there's red dye number 4 here that's got this in it. And what are you trying to do with this? I said, okay. So the next time I went in, I brought him Brussels sprouts.
Touche.
Yeah. Another time, broccoli. Fortunately, I don't remember all of those things, but I do have, it's like the birthday cards. The birthday cards go into my computer, and, the calendar in the computer says, does this repeat every year? And you go, yep, on this date. So they go, how do you remember all this stuff? I don't. I cheat. In the old days, we used to carry the 3x5 index cards, in the 70s when I was doing it. Making sales calls, you go in, okay, this guy's name is Fred. He's third desk down in the back, looks like Hoagie Carmichael or something like that, so I could remember who he was and write down what his son's name was and keep track. Well, gee, your son must be is he out of college yet? Oh, wait a minute, he's still got another year left, doesn't he? Yeah, how do you remember that? It's all the secrets. My wife said I should write a book on how to be a sales rep.
Really? I was just going to say, these are some trade secrets rolling out. Okay. So, you just smile and nod warmly and leave the rest to the imagination, and it's taking you a long way. Well, this is very, very, I think, appropriate for this time of year where we look back fondly over the days of yore and think about things. And by the way, you mentioned Marty Nolan earlier, very well-known rep here in the Cleveland area, of course, and you mentioned his father who gave him his start. Well, he, to this day, still each month sits down and draws out his planner on regular paper, and he follows that like a calendar, and it works for him, and I bet you it's something he passed down from his father. So some of these secrets still work, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and it's just being nice to people. You don't burn any bridges with people.
But what you've done is you've kept the old secret. You've just brought it up to a slightly more modern time, because now it sits in your computer, and your computer works out when to remind you to send out a card or something like that. But you had to put the info in to maintain it originally. Just
right.
Like you would have written it in your little index book.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to just print that page.
Well, you guys wouldn't know this, but earlier in the podcast, we had Zech Williams with the Young Fastener Professionals Group talking to us a little bit. And I'm just wondering how many of those people who tuned in for that are still with us, this little trip down memory lane. But hopefully some of them listened to the whole thing and picked up a few tips, because whether you're in sales or what part of the fastener industry you're in, that kind of sentiment, I think, that you're sharing here, Rick, is still useful, and people should keep that in mind.
Right. When you come across people, younger folks that are just starting out in the business, and they say, so what does a rep do? And you say, well, we go out and we promote with the boots on the ground for different manufacturers. And it's an inexpensive way for them to get coverage, because we already have a lot of people that we know, and they trust us, and they trust the lines that we have. And we basically are PR people. We go in and we tell them about what this company does, what they have as far as prepaid freight, what the minimum orders are, that type of thing. And, oh, wow, yeah. And where do you get money for the gas and all the other stuff and your health insurance? And that all comes out of my pocket.
Yeah, right.
And all of a sudden, it doesn't seem that glamorous anymore. I've had people say, hey, do you need somebody? I'd love to do that. I said, well, are you a good salesperson? Oh, yeah, I'm very good. Well, that's good, because if you don't sell anything, you don't make any money.
Yeah, right.
Paid on what you sell. And so I'm a 1099. My son's a 1099. Dan, a guy in the Mid-Atlantic, is a 1099, and we cover our own expenses. You know, you can drive a Humvee if you want, or a Sherman tank, or whatever, but you probably don't want to be filling up the gas tank every day. But all of a sudden, it doesn't seem as glamorous that if nothing happens, you don't get paid.
How do we get out of this with an uplifting comment here? Because I've been kind of looking for an off-ramp and a way to do it in a jovial, sort of a jolly way.
Okay, well, I sometimes feel like I'm George Bailey.
Oh, I'm liking this. Run with it.
Okay, because I love what I do. I love my customers. I love my principals. And it's been a wonderful life, you know, and I can't think of doing anything else other than what I'm doing now.
Well, that's a big statement right there, and that is uplifting. I appreciate you saying that. I think a lot of people in the fastener industry feel that way, and it's the time of year for us to count our blessings, isn't it?
It sure is, and I've been blessed. You know, I've got grandchildren now, and, you know, trying to get schedules, appointments around. When you talk to me about setting up a time today, I said, well, my granddaughter's last indoor soccer game for the year is tonight, so I'm gonna be going to that and leaving plenty of time so that I can go watch her play.
That's right. We scheduled around her last game of the season. Well, God bless you for doing that. And Rick Rudolph with Rudolph & Associates. It's been 5 years since we talked with you on the podcast. Of course, we see you all the time at events and things like that, but we'll make sure it doesn't take us so long to get you back. What do you think?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, guys, and it's always good seeing you, and looking forward to the next time we bump into each other.
Yep, matey, his too. Okay.
If you're a fastener distributor, please listen up. Hey, this is Steve Roebuck, mining specialist with J. Franco Lock Nuts. Discover the incredible durability of J. Franco Lock Nuts for yourself. The perfect choice for the mining industry, where only the toughest components can withstand the rigors of heavy machinery and harsh conditions. Designed with precision, these lock nuts ensure maximum safety and reliability, preventing loosening and costly downtimes. Your clients deserve the best fasteners, so give us a call at 1-855-694-3250 or send an email to mining@jlandfranco.com to learn more.
Hey there, fully threaded radio fans. We have been hearing a lot of tariff talks over the last couple of months. Put those concerns to rest with BTM Manufacturing, a domestic manufacturer of anchor bolts, single and double end studs, round and square bend U-bolts, and much, much more. BTM Manufacturing, a commitment to service.
Brighton Best is proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with our trusted domestic partners, expanding our stainless offering with a full line of domestic ASTM F593 hex cap screws, 18 through 8, now in diameters from 1/4 inch to 7 8/7 inch, and lengths up to 7 inches. Tested, tried, and true, backed by American workmanship. These partnerships deliver quality you can trust, consistency you can count on, and domestic sourcing your customers will value. Brighton Best is investing in stainless and in the American manufacturers who help us keep our industry moving. Discover the strength of our domestic stainless lineup, including domestic stainless socket head cap screws 18 through 8 and domestic stainless A2 hex cap screws. Brighton Best, your one-stop shop for all things stainless, powered by American Partnership. We are Brighton Best International, Inc.
Hi, this is Kara Bossi from MW Components, your precision component supplier for fastener springs and other metal parts, and I'm talking to Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
You know, Bri, on this appearance, we didn't talk with Rick at all about his prodigious rugby career.
No, we covered a little bit in his previous interview years ago.
Yes, we did. I believe that was episode 153, which is also when he told the story about how he shanghaied his son Morgan into the fastener industry.
Right. Yeah. He was quite happily captaining little schooners and things around the Caribbean.
Schooners? These things were ocean liners. He had the life of Riley, and somehow Rick lured him into the fastener industry. Well, anyway, that's on episode 153. You can go back. But I have a trivia question for you because I know the answer. How old was Rick Rudolph when he finally hung up the cleats? Because he was playing rugby until a very advanced age. He was playing at a serious level, too. You know how old he was when he finally gave it up?
No, look, I'm sure Rick told me and I've forgotten now. But I know he was more than a 20-year-old.
Yeah, he was well into his 40s. Just texted me back on this. He was 47 when he finally called it a career.
Wow, it's a good age to be playing rugby, okay?
Yeah, he is a tank, hardcore dude all the way. So much appreciate all of his insights and good cheer. I guess we mostly got good cheer during this one, Bri, but he's knocking on the door, sounds like.
Yeah, right.
And he's got a lot of perspective as he does so and shares it very generously with the industry. Rick Rudolph with Rudolph & Associates. Also on today's episode, I'd like to thank Craig Penland with Eurolink and Zech Williams with Würth and the Young Fastener Professionals.
Encouraging people to read.
Encouraging people to read and get involved with career enrichment. Good advice all around.
Learn.
Scott McDaniel with Martin and Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International presented their thoughts on the latest Fastener Distributor Index. January's another month. Let's see if all the optimism's going to pay off, folks. Hopefully it does. Marco Rodriguez from Cresa dropped some more of his commercial real estate wisdom. Thank you for that. And, of course, Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute. We'll also thank our partners and sponsors who made this season possible. And looking ahead to next year, looks like green lights all the way. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio, Star Stainless, Global Fasteners, and Brighton Best International. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink, Fastener Supply Service, Andrews International, Cresa, InSequel Software, Fastener Technology International, J. Lanfranco, MW Components, Solution Industries, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Würth Industry USA. Our email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com.
I want to just take a minute looking back over a year of being involved with a great set of companies and friends that we have who are our sponsors. And just remind you, it takes effort to do something. It doesn't sort of fall out of the sky, a whole podcast. It takes thinking, working. And so you couldn't do this unless there was people who were prepared to, front up some of the money to keep it all going. And our sponsors do that, and we're very thankful to them. So I would encourage you to think of our sponsors if you're thinking of fasteners, okay?
Good advice, Bri. And we bundle all of that support into all the things we do with the podcast, the FCH Sourcing Network, and the Fastener Distributor Index, which has also been running now for a good number of years. I think we're into year 13 now, 14, something along those lines, but it's going strong. Doesn't happen by magic. Thanks to our partners for that as well.
Correct.
And we're always looking for ways to support them and offer more value. So we got our ears open on that. All right, turning the page. We really wrestled with how to close this one out because we typically like to go out on a high note, and it just, it just doesn't seem like it's going to work this time. And it's something the entire industry has got their attention focused on. The very, very tragic news of the passing of Sebastian Janis, who has served most recently as president of Sems and Specials out there in Rockford, Illinois. Very well-known guy, just a solid guy. And if I do my math right, he was 44. I did not know Sebastian extremely well, but I had several very solid conversations with him over the years, most recently in Louisville at the IFI meeting. And details are still coming out. This is very fresh news as we were putting the episode together. And we know that it involved some sort of a snowmobiling accident, and whatever it is, we just are so devastated like the rest of the industry. The passing of anyone in the fastener industry, anyone in our fastener family, is painful. It hurts a lot of people, and it's very difficult to know what to discuss on the podcast. You know, there's so many people who we've lost over the years, you know, and we have not mentioned them, but we just couldn't let this news go unacknowledged as we close out the year. And I think one of the reasons is because it gives us yet another opportunity to take pause and appreciate each day and everyone around us. And at this time of year, we'll just say that we wish all of you a season full of love and family togetherness. And we want to thank you for the support that you've given us, not just through sponsorships and so forth, but through so many other ways. It means so much. So rest in peace, Sebastian.
Amen.
From Brian and myself, our condolences go out to the family, of course, to the SEMS and Specials people as well. We'll leave it there. So I'll just say for Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, give someone you know a big hug. We'll talk to you in the new year.
And make sure you use the Christmas time when you've got your family together to tell them how much you love them, because you never know, okay? See you next year.